So hello everyone, good morning and good evening wherever you are, and we would like to start with a brief introduction from my side, and then we can do a roundtable and quickly talk about quickly everyone can introduce very briefly and talk about one thing that what are they looking forward from the session. So that will give me an idea in which direction to go and where to spend more time. I have a few slides, but consider them as kind of just either a backup or a placeholder because would want to have more of a interactive session and make it more engaging for everyone. So with that, let me see if I can turn on my webcam. So as you might already know, my name is Sanjay, and I was working till recently at Oracle as a principal product manager, managing one of the products or bunch of products within the ERP cloud portfolio, product portfolio. And I've been since then I'm part of Pragmatic Leaders, where I'm trying to run the operations. And so that's about me, and I'm looking forward from the session to answer all your questions as much as I can, given we have like limited time. But I'll try my best to cover all the topics of interest, at least touch upon everything. And if there is anything specific, we can always keep like last 10-15 minutes for specific or individual question answers as well. So with that, I would like to start with, I'll go with the list that I have in front of me here. So Piyush, if you can quickly introduce yourself as well, that will be great.
Yes. So I'm currently working as a community manager at Pragmatic Leaders. So I recently joined 8 months back, and currently I'm handling all the community activities here.
Awesome. So Piyush will be our spearheading organizer for this session. So yeah, if anything goes wrong, you know whom to blame.
Yeah.
With next is Anish.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Um, I have recently completed my bachelor in computer engineering, and I have been preparing for my GRE these days. And I am planning to move to the US for either MS in CS or MS in MIS.
okay.
So I'm kind of confused that I should do CS or MIS to go into the product management field or like that, product management field.
Okay.
So So there, yeah, that will be my question too also. So whether I should go for MS in CS or MS in MIS is more preferable more for me for product management.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Great. Sounds good. We'll try to touch upon that as well a little bit. Uh, Next is Aparajita.
Hi Piyush, my name is Aparajita and
Hi.
I'm currently working with Credex. I'm working
Okay.
in the sales strategy team.
Sounds great. Thank you for joining. Karthikeyan, next you are up.
Hi Sanjay.
Yeah, hi.
I've completed my MBA and currently I'm working in the insurance sector as a strategy manager and want to transition into product management as well.
Okay. Strategy manager. So yeah, sounds great. Thank you. We'll move to Soumya.
Hello.
Hey, hi.
Yeah. I am a doctor and a physician and a transformational wellness coach. And I can say I discovered that I have been living the life of product managing style of life. So so since then I have been regularly attending all the sessions so that I will be able to understand much more of it and able to contribute in my way into into the lifestyle skills of
Okay,
product managers.
great. Oh, great, sounds great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good to have a person from different, like very different background, right? As in tech, IT are all related, and that's what we suspect, or usual suspects for us. So, but yeah, good to have you here, Soumya. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah. And did I miss anybody? No, I think that is all. So yeah, with that, I would like to start with a couple of things. Like, let me just talk a little bit about what is product management, and I'll touch upon different aspects of product management a little bit. We don't have too much time to go into all sorts of details, but um, I'll try to do justice to the time that we have. And so first, let's talk about what is the product, right? So, and just to make it like interactive a little bit, so or as much as I can. So, if you can tell me, everyone, like, or just one or two, or whosoever get a chance, what is the product, as in, and if there is any example that you see around, what do you see as product? What in your life, in your day-to-day world, what do you consider as product?
Product is something that solves a customer need or problem.
Okay, sounds good. And so for example, Soumya has as a wellness coach or wellness specialist, right? So she has a wellness program, let's say, and is that a product?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No, it is not. It is,
Okay.
well,
So
I
what is it?
think it is a service.
Okay, that's fair. And so anybody else? Any other thought? I'll come to it. Like, I'll try to answer between product and service as well, though it's not in my slide. But yeah, I'll try to catch up on that as well. So anybody else has any other product that you see around you, or that you feel is a product? Or wellness could be delivered as a service, right? As in, because you are keeping track of it over, let's say, the lifetime of the patient, or over 5 years, 10 years of the patient life, or till they are your patient, right? So, for example, or they are your customer. So it is delivered as a service, but there could be a product at the core as well, right? So the product at the core could be a mission to, a product at the core could be diet plan, let's say, for example, or a wellness plan, or a set of, let's say, even a regime, right? So so those could be products, and the way they are delivered, or how you get it across, is in some ways the service, right? For example, so today everyone would have heard software as a service, right? So at the core of it is still there is a product that exists. So for example, if you look at salesforce.com, or Oracle has so many products. So they are all considered product, or they are called product, but they are delivered as a service. So the way you give access, or the way you help people use it, is in kind of a services model in which it is delivered. But product is essentially anything that carries the value, basically. So so we see products all around us, right? So every day, since you like wake up in the morning till you sleep at night, you have products all around you. Your toothbrush is a product, your mobile phone is a product, your mirror is a product, everything, right? Your house is a product as such as well. Somebody built it and sold it. So the tools we are using to interact here, the GoTo training, the Microsoft PPT, PowerPoint, all these are products. So how they are delivered and what value they carry is different thing, but we interact with products day in and day out. And so basically it's a carrier of value. If you think of product in a very, very, what do you say, in crisp way, right? So it carries some value. How it carries value, to whom it carries, for how long it carries, and all that is the characteristic. But and how value is transferred, or the values delivered, but the idea of product is to like carry some value. If it has no value, then like nobody will pay for it, right, directly or indirectly. So that's the whole idea around what's a product. Now let me just see. So for example, Instagram, right? So Instagram is a product. We all, like a lot of us use it, and the product has many components. So for example, Instagram, when the day when it was launched, for example, right, it was a super simple app. It just did one thing, had a kind of photo feed and bunch of filters, right? So pretty much nothing much around it. There was a capability to share, probably no fancy things that it does today, for example, right? So a product can contain, as it grows, or even on day one, it could have many parts to it, or subsystems to it, which you can call subsystems. So for example, Instagram, right? Instagram has the news feed, the search, the or not the news feed, sorry, image feed or picture feed, and recommendation algorithm behind things, and ability to find friends, ability to do hash or do tags, basically hashtags, and then do a search on top of that, and ability to maintain your own profile, and ability to see your followers and do follow somebody, and ability to like. So all those things are kind of can be called as in some ways subsystems, and everything put together is makes a product that we all use, right? We don't use just the profile, or we don't use just the followers. We just use the whole thing as in a package setup. But if you go inside Instagram, let's say if you go to Instagram office, or know somebody at Instagram, they might have tens of product managers, or probably, I don't know, 50 product managers, or even 100, who knows. So but many product managers would be there to deliver the value that we are looking at, right? So now what does that mean, right? So is a product manager working on, let's say, just the like or the reactions? Basically they call it reactions, right? So whether you like it, or you can do some other reactions as well, probably. So somebody managing just that, is that a product? Is reactions a product? So in itself, probably not, but it has to be managed, because these things have grown so big, so massive and complex over the years. So you need so many people to manage it, and each of the subsystem kind of carries some value and needs somebody to manage it. So in isolation, probably no, like it doesn't make any sense for the end users. But if you go inside the organization, if you look at it from the Instagram's perspective, they will have a bunch of people to manage the subsystems, and each of them internally are referred as products. So if you meet a product manager from Instagram, that product manager will say, I'm a product manager for, let's say, the reactions. So the reactions product manager is managing just the reactions, which is part of which is kind of a subsystem in some ways. So, and putting these subsystems together, right, is a product, and this is what we deliver in terms of value. So, and product is what people pay for, right? Ultimately, you pay in terms of your attention. So the product which are free, for example, Instagram or Facebook, or those kind of products, there the value is in terms of your attention, in terms of your engagement is the value that, or is the kind of price that you are paying for. Then there are paid products, right? So generally the products that we use in enterprise space, for example, let's say Salesforce.com, you pay in real dollar values, right? And you get a value of in terms of being able to manage all your sales pipeline and opportunities and contacts at one place and those kind of things. So from the marketing perspective, right, there are 3 levels of product definition in some ways. So there is a core product which has the core benefit of or service that it takes, and then there is the actual product. So core product, for example, if you look at the Google Map, right? So in case of Google Maps, let's say, the core product as such is the whole what do you say, location map and the um, streets and directions and streets and the whole geo mapping basically is the basically core product, right? But the way it is actually delivered to us, or the way it delivers value in terms of, let's say, directions. So if all it had was the map, probably Google Map without the directions, let's say, then it would be pretty crappy product for all of us, and it wouldn't be used as much as it is used. So then you add the features and you add the capabilities and you package it in a way that it can be used, right? So packaging is also kind of important, and these days especially it is very important, right? Because if Google Maps is not packaged properly, packaged in the sense, if somebody asks you to go and download go and buy a CD drive and then install the Google Maps on your phone, let's say, or on your laptop, then you would not want to use it, right? As in, or the usage will be very low depending on how things are today, right? So 20 years back, probably that would have been okay, or that would have been the only way, 15 years back even. But today, nobody expects it to package that way, right? You want to just go to the maps.google.com and start using it if you're on a browser. So that's what defines your actual product. So, and that's what is kind of in some ways marketed as well. And then there is augmented product. Augmented is kind of the product that is like around it, the peripheral of it, in terms of the kind of services you get, the kind of support you get, and all of that, the warranties and whatnot. So in many of the consumer products, the augmented product probably doesn't exist as much, but the moment you cross into the enterprise products, for example, right, the augmented product is sometimes more valuable than the, or equally valuable, I would not say more, but yeah, is equally valuable as the actual product, because it's very important for organizations to get the support. It's very important for organizations to get the customer service that they need, if they need it at any point when the things stop working or things go down or they need some change or things like that, right? So things depending on which industry you are, and if you are, let's say, one example of core product, like, okay, so I've been talking for too long. So does anybody have any example of core product where the core product is what is delivered, let's say? Those, some of you who are coming from the tech background could at least, or could be able to get some clue on, or some idea on the core product. Anybody, any thoughts, any ideas?
Yeah. Videography. You're purchasing some video editing software, and that would be the core.
Okay.
Would it? Yeah. So
could be, yeah.
And then the support and how we do it and all those tutorials and everything, would it become an actual product there, or it is again an augmented product?
That's kind of augmented product, I would say. Actual product is the software that you're using for editing the video software. So, and one of the examples that I see where the, sorry?
Piyush, I was saying that, for example, Facebook helps people connect. However, there are a lot of features, for example, ads, services that they provide. And
Sure.
these days, obviously, a lot of videos and businesses that are happening over Facebook is like a part of the augmented product.
Yeah, that's a great example. So definitely the core of the product is connecting people, right? So and how they are connecting people is by giving us suggestions. Let's say friend suggestions are asking us to do or allowing us to do a search. So in the beginning days, right, we used to search a lot. I would go and search all my school friends, let's say, for example, whom I had not met in probably 5 years, 10 years, and then I would just search and find them and connect with them, right? So the core product is connecting, and then the actual product is core product is connecting people, or core services to connect people, and the actual product is how you go to the website, do a search, and those kind of things. One of the examples where core product are kind of sold directly or delivered directly is you see a lot of companies these days who are building APIs, for example, right? So if you are an API company and all you do is provide an API, let's say, so there are APIs which does location services. There are APIs which does tracking, kind of different sort of tracking. So sorry. So those API services is where, like, generally the core and the actual product is very kind of bundled together in some ways and delivered together. So yeah.
Sanjay, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I'm still not able to understand the difference between core and actual product. I mean, if there is an information processing system, suppose we have, and it has a core functionality of processing some data.
Yeah.
And we are getting some output after you're building. We have build some rules around that, through which we are getting entering the raw data and getting the information out of it. See, we can build lot of features into it. Like there can be lot of type of processing. We can multiple type of processing we can build. So would that be a actual product or a core product? I mean, there is a thin line between defining that, because since we are going to develop a MVP for a core product.
Sure.
And you have mentioned design and styling part also into the actual product, not a core product. So even if a core product needs, just give me a second. Even if we are developing a core service, we need to build some UI to make it usable, and we need to give it some front end UI itself. So how would you we can demarcate these things? I am not able to understand.
So the core is what you have a data input, you have data output, but what is the value that you're providing, right, is the core, right? So value is, let's say, your synthesized data or formatted data is the value then, right? So whatever your output is, right, probably you can you deliver it as a CSV? Probably yes. And even that is like putting some design and style on it. The core product is what's the value, right? So I put, let's say, 100 columns or tens of thousands of gigabytes of data, and then you process and give me a nice chart, let's say, right? But what is there? That is the value of that chart. Why is that chart important for me, right? If that chart is telling me, say, it's helping me optimize my sales. I'm just taking some big example, right? So if it is helping me optimize my sales, right, then that is the core product. Core product is the capability to optimize your sales. How you are delivering is in terms of a chart, in terms of a whatever, nicely looking spreadsheet, nicely looking CSV or something, right? Or putting a web interface to it and putting all those sorts of capabilities, right? By doing filtering, slicing and dicing and all that. But the core value that you're providing is even beneath the feature itself, right? So the value that you are providing, for example, Facebook, right? So if for Facebook, we are saying core product is to connect people, right? So connecting people, does it tell you anything? How do you connect people? No. Telephones also connected people when telephone came about, right? So which is fair enough, so they have the same value in some ways. So just that can connect with now 1,000 people at the same time, which you cannot do with the telephone, right? So, or traditional telephone, I meant. So that's like when you are talking about data processing, which does an input and an output and all that, why you are doing that, right? What's the value that it is providing? So the value is the core product, right? The value of for which actually people are paying, right? So people are paying for connecting people in case of Facebook, right? And nobody's paying Facebook for search, right? That they have awesome search capability. And search is a feature, great feature, probably. There are probably 50 engineers working or 100 engineers working on that search to make it work seamlessly, to make it work within a fraction of a second and whatnot, right? But does that mean that is the core value? That is the core product? No, not really, actually, right? So the core thing behind Facebook is connecting people in some ways, right? So similarly, in your case, the core value is whatever that people are using that output data for, right? Or whatever that you are being able to sell the output for, right? So if the output is going to help you increase your sales, let's say, or optimize your sales process, then that's
Yeah, but that software will have its that itself. Software will have its own UI and all that stuff to make
so
it,
that's the actual product, right?
yeah.
That's the actual product then, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This like core
So this is
purpose.
again, this is a difference which is kind of from the definition perspective, we teach it in the course, and I just wanted to have it in the slide, but there's something that we can go into more details like in the course and those kind of things. But
Yeah.
so let's come to the more important and more interesting question, right? So product management. Many of you want to switch, right? So or many of you have some flavor or some idea of product managers. You might have seen product managers in your organization around you. So before I again get started, let me take a quick input from every one of you. So what do you think is a product manager, or what do you think is product managers do? And if you have seen product managers around you, you can take example from your real life or what you have read somewhere. You can take example from that. Just let's make it more engaging that way. So
Well, product management is basically, giving a shape to a service. Basically, if we are like, defining the product, developing a product and deciding its, path of future, which we call product roadmap, and making it more, going forward, making it, driving more value to the user, as well as, which can bring more ROI to it.
okay.
So that is basically management. So apart from that, I think we have to look at the various as a management, as a manager, we have to look at the various aspects of the product where we are lacking and where we are gaining, to make a better analysis and to further streamline our roadmap.
Sure. So in brief, you are saying product manager owns the roadmap, right? And they help you maximize the ROI, or help organization maximize the ROI. And I think if there is another third bullet point. Okay, so anybody else? Those two are very valid points. Definitely. Yeah.
Product manager, somebody is actually, in short, kind of a
someone
CEO of a product.
with various
One
stakeholders in the
second.
company, like they work with the engineering teams, they work with all the like they also work with the business teams,
Yep.
various clients. They get to know what exactly should be done. They put themselves in the shoes of a customer and try to analyze what exactly a product should be.
Okay. Anybody else? Somebody else was also saying something. I think Anish or somebody.
I was saying the product manager is actually the CEO of the product, and he, as was rightly pointed out, most of the points, that he actually coordinates. He is the advocate of the customer and coordinates within the engineering design in the various UI UX and combines all the teams, and ensures that the product is right delivered through the life cycle, and delivering the value and maximizing the returns for the company.
That's a very interesting analogy. We always hear it quite often. Anybody else has anything before I jump into it a little bit? And I think we have some new joining as well. New as in, I didn't know. We did not have the introduction in the beginning. So Vishal Singh. So this is a good time to speak, Vishal, if you can. If you are at a place and where you can speak, then just share an introduction about yourself, and what you're looking from this session, and what do you know of or think of product management, right? That who are product managers?
So product management is identifying the customer pain points and finding the right market fit, so that to attain a sustainable growth in the future.
Okay, sounds good. And brief about yourself, Vishal, if you don't mind.
I'm working as a product manager for Bajaj Finserv.
Okay.
I'm working as a product manager for Bajaj Finserv.
Okay. Okay, sounds great. So, yeah, there are, first of all, again, yeah, there are no right or wrong answers, but every one of you had very valid points. So product manager is mix of all of that, right? Product manager looks at the customer pain point, looks at the market fit, looks at the sustainable growth, looks at the, somebody mentioned coordinating between different teams or working with different stakeholders from all around. And then somebody mentioned about ROI, making sure that you have a ROI and maximizing the ROI in some ways. So, so yeah, all of that put together is in some ways responsibility of the product manager. So, and yeah, somebody mentioned that's why the CEO of the product, right? So that's a kind of in some ways a coin phrase. I personally kind of don't like it as much because it gives a wrong perception. CEOs can pretty much hire or fire anybody. They have a lot of authority in the organization. They can lead with the authority, but the product manager is, I think, even job is kind of a little more difficult than the CEO's job in some ways because you still have to lead, but you don't have any authority, right? So those of you who have who are working in the product organization or who is working as product manager would know that as a product manager, generally you don't have anybody reporting to you, and you are working with everyone. So and you are the one stop shop for, let's say, to ensure the success of the product, right? That's your single goal in some ways. And the product is, let's say, built by the engineers, tested by the QA people, marketed by the marketing folks, sold by the sales guys, and still you have almost zero control in terms of how they perform, right? So you cannot, like, if the marketing guy is not doing his job right, you can generally not just stand up one day and fire that guy, right? So and if that guy is doing a great job, you cannot stand up one day and give him a increment or a bonus or a hike, right? So but still you have to work with that guy, make sure that that guy aligns with your product goals, and the marketing is done in the way that you feel is right for the product, and it kind of gets a message in the right way and in the right sense. So that's where it's kind of different from being a CEO of a product, right? So that's the reason I kind of personally generally try to avoid that term and don't use it as much. So but yeah, it is mix of all that what everyone talks about. So but at the end, right, if you summarize it in one thing, then product manager is somebody who is responsible for the success of the product in some ways. And however you define success, if you define success in terms of a metric like number of daily active users, or number of downloads, or number of the kind of customer feedback that you are getting, and in terms of successes, being able to deliver on time, in value, within the resources and everything, right? So whatever you define success, right, is the thing that product managers are, after all, in the end responsible for, basically. So with that brief, I'll go into a little bit of detail in terms of what product managers do, right? So generally a product goes through a typical product life cycle, right? So where you first build the product for introduction phase, then it kind of grows, it hits a maturity and stabilization, and then eventual decline, right? So the time is something that it moves in that direction, but you don't know how fast, how slow, and how long will the maturity stay, how long will the growth curve last, how long will the introduction phase last, right? Each of these phases could be done in few months to few years. Sometimes the growth continues for like 5 years, 10 years, or sometimes it continues for few months, and then you hit a plateau of stabilization. So and then sometimes the decline comes within few years, or sometimes it lasts for decades. So depending on what product you are building and how you are building and the value that you're providing. So you have this typical life cycle of a product, and then the product development process, right? So that means there is a kind of 5D process that we refer to, which is like you first discovery. Discovery is finding the problem, right? If the product has to be built or is built, is to address some need, right? If there is a if we live in an ideal perfect world, then probably every problem is solved already and you don't need to build any more new products, right? But that's not the case. You always before Facebook, there was no way to connect with your near and dear ones, and before Google Maps, there was no way to kind of get your directions wherever you are, and so as long as there is a pain point that exists, or if there is a need that exists, or the need that can be created sometimes, that's the part of the discovery. And then once you have discovered a pain point or a problem or a niche or area where you want to create a product or build a product for, then development and deployment and distribution, that's like doing the execution basically, and then do it again. So the product kind of goes through the cycle. So for example, if the Facebook is launched, that doesn't mean that the discovery is done, or you don't discover new problems in new areas and new opportunities to build. So that's why Facebook keep launching new features, new products within the Facebook arena itself, right? So let's say they have started recently Facebook Travel. So they found an opportunity that, okay, people travel a lot, and they put a lot of pictures on the Facebook when they travel, but is Facebook providing any other service around that? Are you providing the experiences around travel? Probably answer was no. So they said, okay, they can add travel as a capability or a feature, and now you can go and find the trips and find the I don't know what all does it allow, but the idea is to enable the travel or the travel experiences for people. So, and then it goes into the same cycle of development, deployment, and distribution. How you do it, how quickly you do it, how slowly you do it, and how long does it take to develop and deploy and distribute is all dependent on the product that you're working on. But sometimes these things could happen within a week as well, right? So, and sometimes these things could take years. So depending on the kind of product that you're talking about. So I already talked about this a little bit. So, so product management means kind of making a lot of small decisions all the time, right? So as a product manager, given you are responsible for the success of the product, right? So if that means engaging with the customers, if that means engaging, or let's say doing a customer feedback study, right? Or doing some sort of A/B testing, or doing some sort of field research. It's all product managers in some ways responsibility. So you might have a team which can do your usability studies, for example, product usability studies from within in some other department, depending on, again, size of the organization and the kind of work that you're doing. If you're a startup, probably with 10 people in it, then you do everything that I'm talking about. But if you are a 10,000, 50,000 people organization, you will probably have different teams who will do that. But what to study and what to analyze, what feature to take the user feedback on, let's say, is kind of product manager's job, right? Those kind of decisions need to be made by the product managers. So and ultimately, as a product manager, we do all of that is to create value for the customer, right? So if I'm trying to build a new feature, let's say, and I have two different approaches in my mind, I can do it in X fashion and Y fashion, and I have some gut feeling as a product manager that, okay, might like A versus B or X versus Y, but the feeling is not that strong, let's say, that you cannot decide based on that feeling, or you don't have data, let's say, because this is something that you're doing for the first time. So what do? You, let's say, start a usability study, and but the idea is to maximize the value. Why are you doing that usability study? Is to find the best possible answer, right? There are two ways to do things. One is generally better than the other. Generally, you don't have 50-50 skill split between these kind of things. So let's say it's 80-20, 70-30, but you would want to pick the 70% option, like where 70% of people will like it versus 30% option, right? So the idea is to maximize the value, right? So all these small decisions collectively put together kind of drive the success or deliver the value to the customer in the end. So yeah, decisions all revolving around value for the customer, right? So some interesting infographic. So then one of the things that the product managers kind of come across or have to do every time is balancing different goals, right? So as an organization, you have certain goals. As a product, you have certain goals. As a team, you have certain goals, and within that, you as a product manager, or your product has goals in terms of the users, right? So when you are talking of users, the user goal is, for example, this Facebook is an interesting example, right? So we all know Facebook makes money by displaying ads, right? So the organizational goal in some ways is to maximize the revenue, after all, right, by putting ads. So the Facebook ad product manager would want to put ads everywhere on the page, right, wherever possible. Whereas you, let's say you are managing the Facebook news feed, then your job is to maximize the value for your customer or your users. So your users are every one of us, let's say, for example, right, who come to the page, and they are not coming to the page to look at the ad, right? They are coming to the page to look at the feed from their contacts, from their friends, from their pages they subscribe to, and all of that, right? So that is in contrast in some at times, or have a conflict with the other goals that the organization has, right? So if all you put is your friend's feed, and all you put is your subscribed source information, or posts from your subscribe pages, then you're not going to make any money, right? So then the organization is going to lose in some ways, and you're not going to, they'll not be able to even pay you your salary. So so how do you find a balance, right? How much do you let go, or how much do you allow the other goals to kind of in some ways come in and take space within your area, right, in some ways. So these are the kind of conflicting priorities or conflicting goals or balancing goals, balancing act that you have to do as a product manager every single day. So there are no free lunches, right? So for example, so you have to sometimes, so you have to strike a balance that, okay, what is the optimal thing to do for your users as well as for the organization in some ways. So this is also one of the kind of core job of product managers in some ways. So not every day the decision is as significant as how much space to give to the ad people, but nevertheless you make decisions to balance different priorities in terms of, let's say, what you can do in the short term versus long term. So if you are doing something to gain short-term traction, it could have a consequence on the longer term, some other goal from the long-term perspective. So you have to kind of, as a product manager, keep things balanced at every single day. So, and product managers are jack of all trades. That's why, because as I mentioned, you got to do so many different things, or you got to be involved in so many different things. So even if you don't do everything yourself, which is not humanly possible, right? Because like unless, again, depending on the size of organization, if you're 3 people in a company, you will do probably everything of that is there to be done as a product manager. But if you are in any larger organization, then you'll have like different teams, right? Different organizations or groups or subgroups within your company to take care of different aspects. You are ultimately responsible for so the core things that you are responsible for in some ways, right, is the product roadmap, and then the product roadmap need to align with the organizational roadmap and the business roadmap, and prioritize your product, like break your product roadmap down into the smaller chunks, which you can, like your roadmap would be that, okay, in next 6 months or in next 1 year we'll achieve this much, or next 2 years we'll achieve this much, and next quarter will achieve this much. So that's your, in some ways, product roadmap, business roadmap. But then you have to break it down into smaller things, like we call it, like I'm already jumping into the things that I have some later slides to talk about. For example, the epics and features, which are Scrum terminologies, or Scrum methodology. In Scrum methodology, we use these terms. So you break that roadmap items into smaller pieces of epics and features by which you can deliver the value ultimately, right? So, and then break that down further for the team to build it. So if your feature is, let's say, add, for example, feature itself is to add search capability, let's say, in your mobile app. You have a mobile app today, but it doesn't have search, let's say, for example, for whatever reason. So if you say add search, then that could be a feature. But if you just tell engineer that, okay, let's go and add search, the engineer cannot just go and build that, right? Unless you tell the user engineer a little more, that let's do a search on first name, let's do a search on location, let's do a search on city, let's do a search on country, those kind of things, right? And let's show top 5 results. Let's show then like in the search results, show the percentage match or something like that, right? This is how the results will look like. So this is as a product manager, you will be breaking down things from or like distilling things down, right? So you start with the overall organizational goals, you go to the product goals, you go to the granularities of features, epics and features, and then stories, and within each story you go to the nuts and bolts of like what it will look like, like what color should that button be, or what color should what like search should people hit enter, or should people click a button or search button to do the search, or should it work both ways, or should it like how should it within how many seconds is it acceptable to get the search result? So to get to that lowest level of details, right, is product manager's job after all. So as a from the development perspective. And then there are other areas which are related to the operations and delivery of the product, and then the customer satisfaction and the feedback. So it's like all over basically. So for product managers, so so in product management, then you have different companies have different sort of nomenclature or different sort of terminologies for product managers. Sometimes product manager, sometimes program manager, sometimes technical program manager, sometimes product market has a lot of overlap with the product managers, and sometimes they are called product marketing manager, but they are involved in the other areas as well outside of the marketing. So depending on which organization you are looking at, then you have different nomenclature. And even project manager sometimes overlaps, because after all, you can call each of the feature building exercise or each of the small step you are doing as a project, and the project has a beginning and an end that you start conception and then deliver the value as part of the project as well. So that's why there is kind of mix of all these terminologies that are happening across different organizations. This is a good kind of metric in some, or sorry, good lay of the land in terms of product manager, like the different areas that the product managers get involved in some ways. right from engineering decision making to tactical to and operational things to strategic and marketing and sales things. So it doesn't mean that the product manager does everything, but the idea is that product manager has understanding or gets involved and helps make decisions or even sometimes make decisions for each of these areas. So given we are running short on time, I'll quickly navigate through. So then you have like this generally shows where the product manager sits versus where the product marketer sits, and the sales product manager versus technical product managers. So these are different kind of, you can say, depictions or different focuses. So if somebody's some organization has both the roles, let's say sometimes technical product manager as well as product manager. So then you can understand where it will fit. The technical product managers will be very, very heavily involved in the engineering side of the aspects. And this generally happens when the products are quite technical. And let's say if you are building a product for developers, right? So if you have a product like let's say you are making the web servers. So if you are a product manager for web server, then you definitely need kind of two different sort of product managers. One who can help the engineers build the web server, who has been, let's say, engineer himself or herself before, and who can wear the hat of understand the technology behind or technical aspects of that product. Whereas you need another product manager probably who will be good at how to market that product, right? What price to sell it at, whom to target, what kind of developers to look for, target, right? Do we sell it to the organizations? Do we sell it to the individual developers, or do we sell it to the mid-market, right, or large corporations? So depending on what your product does, right? So that's the kind of difference between these different terminologies and different roles in some ways, not just the terminologies. So depending on the organizations that you're looking at and the product that you're building or kind of products you're building, you might have one or more of these specialization roles within your organization. And again, this talks a little bit about where the product manager sits basically. So in the triangle of technical strategy and marketing. So given we are running out of time, I'll quickly so these are again different areas where, or the work that the product manager need to do at times, right? So or what is expected of a product manager. So very foundation of it is in some ways domain knowledge. So let's say if you are a product manager, let's say you want to be a product manager of let's say Google AdWords, for example, right? So does that mean you can just walk into the Google AdWords? Let's say all your life you have been working in sales, let's say, and then Google AdWords is a lot related to sales. So that tells you or gives you a lot of background, let's say, on digital sales, for example, or digital sales and marketing, let's say. So that gives you a lot of domain knowledge in some ways to work on the Google AdWords kind of products. But on the other side, if you want to go and work on the Google search product, let's say, so your domain knowledge will probably not be the fit, right? So product managers, unless you are like starting fresh out of the college and joining a team, where the expectations are that you learn the domain knowledge as you kind of grow, but otherwise generally you grow into, let's say, the transitioning thing that happens, right, is you build on your knowledge, or you use your experience and use your domain knowledge as your in some ways leverage to get into the product management. So if you are already working as an engineer in certain domain, then it kind of puts you in the in the right spot in some ways to be able to build towards or switch towards product management. So yeah, those who are looking to enter the field, those who are looking to switch the field, if you can focus on the domain that you're already in, that helps quite a lot. Then these are the softer aspects in the middle, right? Prioritization, influencing, and business acumen. So um, being able to prioritize things, because for a product you'll get a lot more asks or a lot more requirements or a lot more feedback than you can possibly process or you can possibly deliver. So you have to always be prioritizing. That is one of the most important things for a product manager, because you have like X amount of resources, and you always have a backlog which is probably 5x of that. So you have to decide which one to pick and which one to let go, and then there is a lot of decision making that comes in that process, because if you prioritize, like you use your gut, you use the data, you use all the available information, and use that, all of it, to prioritize and come up with a answer in some ways, that to do build X versus Y, right, or A versus B. So and that all involves a lot of influencing, because we all are working in the knowledge industry in some ways. So working with the engineers, working with the co-workers, as somebody mentioned, right, you are actually not the CEO. So all you can have is influence. All you can have is ability to convince people, ability to tell them your vision, tell them the story, tell them why they should be doing that, right? And if somebody comes and says that, okay, you are saying feature A is priority over feature B, but I think feature B is priority. So then over A, let's say your engineers comes and says that to you. So then you have to rationalize it, that okay, why you think feature A is priority over feature B, and lead with the influence and with the softer power. So that's the kind of one of the biggest jobs as a product manager, is to be able to communicate your vision. So as a product manager, you should have the best idea, best clarity in terms of what the product is doing, what it's supposed to be doing, and where it is going, right? So everyone else looks up to product manager for these kind of answers, right? That okay, what should we be, what are we doing, and why are we doing? So having absolute clarity in those things is kind of job of a product manager in some ways. Then having a business sense, in the sense what helps, what doesn't help the organization, what helps the product, what helps the other parts of the organization, like sales, right? So you could build a kick-ass product, take a lot of time to build a kick-ass product, but if there is no one to buy it, then and then there is no one to pay for the money that you are asking for, because you spent so much time building it, right? So those kind of things you got to understand as well as a product manager, and put all of that, synthesize all of that, and put that out in practice, in action, right? So these are the core tenets of product management in some ways. And given we are already at the top of the hour, I will quickly take a few minutes to talk about a couple of questions or specific questions that we had. One was about, let me go. One was about doing MS and CS versus MIS for product management. So there is no easy answer to this question, because I think the bigger focus should be like the kind of choosing a stream which kind, as in CS versus MIS. It's kind of difficult question from the product management perspective. So product managers are generally, as I mentioned, right? So you need to understand the technology, you need to understand, let's say, the domain that you're working in. So depending on what kind of product you are interested in, right? So I would say focus on that. So if you do CS, probably you can be a product manager in very, very hardcore company which is building, let's say, APIs for living, right? So those kind of things. So, or which is building tools for engineers, let's say, or for coders, those kind of companies. Whereas if you do MS in MIS, it is more of information system. So I'm not sure what does that, or what will that align to, and a lot of it is, I think, which university do you do it as significant if you're doing it in US. So look at the universities, how people get placed out of these after these courses. If from your previous batches, if you see people joining APM programs, generally directly after the college, all you can expect is associate product manager, or it's called APM program. That's kind of famously done, or kind of made famous by Google in some ways. So there are many companies, many large companies, which have done program, or which do program on that similar line. So just look at where people are going from the university that you are looking at. So and that will tell you probably, or give you some pointers towards what is a better pick between the two. So somebody was saying something. Anish, did you have something specific?
Yeah, right now I'm working as a backend developer. So what can be my step? I am working as a backend developer.
Okay.
So how can I move towards the product management now? Switch towards the product management. What can be my steps?
So okay. First thing, there are no magic pills. Okay, there are no magic pills to swallow here, right? So if you want to be product manager, start living like product manager, start doing things like product manager, start working with your product manager. So if you are a backend developer, and if you are already in a product company, then that's a great place to be if you want to be moving to the product management, right? If you're not in that position, then I would say first get into that position, that you become a product that you start working in a product company, start working around the product manager, and then slowly learn from the product manager. Ask your product managers what is that if you can contribute in some ways, if you can take a small piece of something and help, or what you can do is, let's say if you are working on a feature, then write the first version of spec yourself. As soon as your product manager tells you that, okay, this is something that is what we are looking to build, let's say next quarter, or next 1 month, or next 3 months, depending on your cycles, then go to the product manager and tell them that can I take a stab at it, and nobody says no to help. So switching is not always easy, is never easy in general. So you have to put that extra, or go that extra mile in some ways, to get to that position where you can. So if you want to be product manager, start working like product manager, or you have to maybe put few extra hours, and there's no shortcut to the hard work. So yeah, and that's why we have our bootcamp kind of courses, to help you know at least what to write. So if you say on day one to your product manager that I want to write a spec, so probably he'll be skeptic that, okay, it will be more work for him to write something that you or fix something that you write. But you can give them confidence by telling them that, okay, I'm doing this sort of course and I'm interested, and this course makes me write a PRD already, and those kind of things. So feel free. So explore, take a look at our course. We can you can drop a note to any one of us, and we can tell you more about it if you're interested. And then yeah, so at least you'll know what to write, and then write it. So, or it gives you a hook to get engaged, right, with your product managers. Anything else?
No, not for now.
Okay, awesome. I hope you got at least a little bit of introduction of what the product managers do, what the life of product managers would be like, and I hope we can help you in your journey towards product management. And to learn more about product management, reach out to any of us at Pragmatic Leaders, and we'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sanjay, for joining us today. And the insights were very useful. And before ending, I would like to give a little introduction about Pragmatic Leaders. So, and before that, I want to tell you all that this session recording will be published at our YouTube channel, so you can access it there. And all the webinar recordings are published at our YouTube channel. So apart from this, at Pragmatic Leaders, we started this organization with the motive of building a new generation of product managers. So do a lot of things. So we have built a separate community for product managers. You can access our Facebook group there, and we do a lot of online webinars, offline events, and do a lot of stuff related to product management. So you all are invited there, and you can learn a lot from these things. Apart from this, we have built a global job board for product managers. So if you are looking for job, so you can access it. It's available at our website. And apart from this, we have built our bootcamp course, where apart from this learning thing, you will be allowed to build and ship a real product. So as Sanjay mentioned, you can join anytime. Our cohort 4 is starting from 17th of Jan, and we have only 4 seats left for our cohort. So you can apply it online, or you can reach out to me or anyone else in Pragmatic Leaders team in case you are looking for transition or looking for upskill in product management. So that's all from my side.